Welcome back to another episode of the Mindless Marketers with your hosts, Marc Binkley, Connor Byrne, and Vassilis Douros, me, V, where we'd like to, about once a month, we like to get together and we talk about a lot of we try to theme it. So this episode is going to be themed around canes, or I don't know how to say it. God damn, everyone's going to be laughing, but I don't care. And just around, the idea of creative. So we've sourced 3 creatives from the Marketoonist that really highlight the impact of creativity. And we also have a fun little segment towards the end that I hope everyone's going to enjoy because we spent a lot of time thinking about it. Everyone's laughing.
Meeting after meeting.
That's right. So many meetings. Good morning to you, Mark. Good afternoon to you, Connor. Welcome to another episode of the Mindless Marketers.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, good seeing you guys too. Well, let me kick off.
Kick us off, buddy.
Yeah, there's a cool. So what I did is I went through some of the agenda topics that are going to be presented at Con, and one of them is called "Convince Your C-Suite: The Real Impact of Creativity." So the Marketoonist has got this great image of a guy. It looks like pitching an idea to a board, and it is set up as though it's a Newton's cradle, where the guy's idea is a light bulb, and there's a Newton's cradle swing coming where the rest of the balls are going to smash the light bulb. To me, it was a really interesting way of, like, you hear this so many times that briefs and creative ideas get whittled down, and the approval process is brutal. And what your original creative idea was at the beginning ends up looking almost nothing like what it ends up becoming at the end. And so maybe it's for the better, maybe it's not. I don't know. What do you guys think about this one?
And yeah, for me, when I was looking at this one as well, it's like almost the positioning of what you're there to do. And I think marketers and senior marketers even get it wrong when they go to the C-suite to talk about marketing, because they lead with creativity. Mm-hmm. That's probably the wrong thing to lead with, as opposed to business problem, how marketing is going to solve for it, what the creative might be that will help solve that business problem, how we're going to measure it, how that campaign is going to come alive across every single touch point we have. And so I think that's where a lot of times the idea dies, because when you go in and you do the showbiz and you show something, everyone has a view on visuals and, I don't like that color green. And then you're derailed, like, from the get-go. So for me, it's almost the what you're going in with is the thing to get right first versus the pictures.
Yeah, that's a great point. V, how about you?
Yeah, it's one of those things that if you had to explain your job to a 5-year-old, the reality is, not only do you have to convince consumers to buy a service or product from you, the biggest sell is always internal.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Because, like you said, Mark, there at the beginning, an idea that originates will likely look a lot differently when it actually goes to market. It's because you're usually trying to appease all of the different, not only like the industry nuances and things like that will naturally exist in course, like creative in a specific direction, but because of the subjective POVs that exist within an organization, especially within a hierarchy, that you're always going to be, I just don't like the music, or I just don't like the creative. And it's just it has nothing to do with if it's the right one for the creative, or it's just because someone doesn't like it. And that makes it extremely challenging for us as marketers, because like I said, the work that goes in to the brief, the work that goes into then selling that idea or the creative at some point to the internal stakeholders, it takes so much time. It takes so much time, and I think time is wasted because there's this because we're all consumers, we all have opinions on what works.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, Connor. I love your point about solving for a business problem first and
I agree.
Not leading with creative. Like, I think that actually makes a ton of sense. And then V, your point about all the requirements that go into a single piece of creative. It's incredibly how much content, I mean, maybe that's not the right word, but how much content you're trying to stuff into an ad.
Totally.
And keep it simple and easy to understand. Yeah. The other thing that I just was thinking about as well, there's a great visual that Dan White did in one of his books. It was around how to evaluate creative.
Right.
And I think some of this sometimes is, and it sounds like you guys both had similar experiences. Like you get this response from an executive or board group saying, "No good creative when I see it."
Yeah.
Just keep going. Come back
Just
with
keep
another version, right? No, that's not it. Well, can you help me understand what you're looking for?
Yeah.
I'll know it when I see it. And so you get that kind of thing. And so this visual that Dan put together was like a way to speak about creative. It's kind of like I've been playing in a really bad garage band, and for the first time ever, we had a drummer. And I never played with a drummer before. I have no idea how to speak drum. Like I don't know what to tell him. I'm like, all I know is it doesn't sound quite right. Not that I sound great either, but there's something. So let's kind of just break this down and figure it out. And so I think in a way that this visual that Dan put together was a way to speak creative. The same way I was trying to figure out how to speak drum. And so giving people a tool like that where it shows like, here's the feedback that you can give me that will be helpful, will also be a productive thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if the question is, what do you think of this? Or is there anything you don't like about this? Well, immediately someone's going to find the thing they don't like about it.
They don't like.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Instead of being very purposeful and saying, this is the feedback I'm looking for.
Yeah. These are the things that are up for grabs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not changing the talent. The music is the music.
Yeah. We're going to a beach to film it.
Yeah.
We open on a beach. That's how it starts.
All right. Let's go on to the next one.
What do we have next?
Speaking of beaches. So
this guy. You already have a different demeanor about yourself. You know that, right? You're carrying yourself a lot differently. Just want to say that.
Well, I won't. Yeah, arrogance, swagger. I don't know what.
You could call it.
I almost see like a sweater over your shoulders,
the tie in the front,
and an Aperol spritz in your hand.
Yeah, well, it's afternoon here. So this cartoon is about Cannes and the marketing echo chamber, and we have a load of people walking along, I guess, a pier in the south of France. This guy is saying to a lady beside him, it's so important to leave our offices once in a while and get, out into this real world. And which party are we going to again? Which yacht party are we going to again? And I think for me, it was obviously important to put this one up there, as a great opportunity for letting people know that I'm open to attending many and numerous yacht parties at Cannes. I will have my podcast microphone and camera with me, and we can record content, and that's the call is out there. The call is out there. That and sponsorship of my Cannes content. But I found this interesting.
If you have multiple offers, do you judge them based on the size of the yacht that they?
100%. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
The size of the yacht, and do I get to interview Snoop Dogg? Like that's
of course. Yeah.
Well, when you're there meeting your yacht friends, feel free to grab a couple tickets for us so we can come help you with content.
Yeah, like I'm going to be the guy that doesn't take his shoes off. Like what shoes? Well, I find this one interesting because, look, I haven't been to Cannes before, so I don't know what to expect. I've spoken to a lot of people who have been, and I get mixed reviews, I guess, of people going, it's mad, it's insane, it's exhausting, there's so much to take in. But there's one constant that does come through from everybody I speak to, is it is incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
And so I do think, look, is it a bubble? Maybe, I don't know, we'll find out. But I do think it's really important to recognize creativity and actually stop, pause, and kind of go, this is great creative work. Like I've met with the young lions who are going to go out to France representing Ireland at that young lions competition.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll all go, they've taken part in a competition here, and they're going to go to France. They get to experience the competition or the festival, but then they get to participate in a competition there and respond to a brief for a nonprofit. They have 24 hours to respond. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
So look there.
I was a young lion.
A
young lion.
Oh, no way.
It's
Is that when you're in Greece?
Yeah. In 2008. It is an incredible experience because it does give you a different appreciation of the collective power that creative actually has. It is a whirlwind, 100%. But again, at that time, I was taking part in it versus taking in all of the I guess the
festivities.
The festivities. I wasn't call it an exhibition, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a yeah. For all the slagging that happens with con, there is something to that about. I mean, celebrating anything is great, and then the networking that comes up with that. I'm super jealous of your visit there. It's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, look, it's great, and I've already got lined up, meeting some incredible people, do some interviews there, and hope to set up time with others, because it's like there's going to be so many amazing people, and then get to see as much as I can in between that. So it's going to be an enjoyable experience, I hope, but it's going to be work as well, I guess, in the sense of you call podcasting work, but it's I think just trying to take out as much of it, and that's the impression I get from people who've been there. It's like you can get so much out of it, and then that inspiration you can bring back to wherever it is you work. If you're in an agency or a brand, I just think raises all boats or yachts.
I love that. I love that.
B, I think this one is for you.
Yeah. So this one, I think this is if you had to summarize what we do, this is literally what we do. So if you could imagine, to those listening to the podcast and not watching it, basically there is a marketing practitioner and a creative both in a room. The marketing practitioner asks to the creative, we'd like a brand video. It needs to show all these benefits, and it's just a toilet paper of just a whole bunch of benefits. Have lots of product shots and use consumer testimonials we wrote and stay within our brand guidelines and get buy-in from 5 different departments and plug in a local retailer promotion. Creative responds, is that all? She then rebuttals, it also needs to go viral. That's it. That's all this campaign needs to do. The reason why this resonates with me, sometimes we ask our creative to do more than what it's actually meant to do. And we believe that by adding all the product shots or adding all the RTBs, the reasons to buy or the benefits, that we're actually solving problems. Where at the end of the day, we know based on science, what we're trying to do is reduce the friction in our brains from a problem that we're facing and how we solve it through a company, a product, a service, or something to that effect. So how do you just make people aware that you're there and you have like a product that's available, right? And I think it's just been somewhat exacerbated in some context that we have to do all these things in the ads because that's what we believe is what consumers are resonating with, when in actuality it's not. So I think it's just how do we simplify this whole process, I think is important, making sure that we go back to finding the right creative solutions to the right business problems without trying to add so many of these, I don't know how else to say it. It's just
requirements
that we fabricate, we create ourselves.
Yeah.
And
it's for me, I think Ellie Norman from Manchester United said it to me when she met me. She's like, it's inside out. So it's all the things that you think are important. Like, this one, product shots, benefits, testimonials, even your brand guidelines, all that stuff. It's so inside out. And then you're trying to put all that on, whatever it is, like, PowerPoint in the back of The Economist.
Totally.
A mess.
Yeah.
And B2B does it worse than anyone else.
Yeah. It reminds me, there's a quote from, who's How to Win Friends and Influence People guy again? What's this guy's name again?
Didn't influence you.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It's a book though. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Anyway, there's How to Win Friends and Influence People is the name of the book. Yeah. But somewhere in that book, there's this quote about him saying, "Well, I know there's this weird thing about fishing. I really like strawberries and cream, but for some strange reason, fish don't seem to like it, so I end up using worms for my bait.
That's incredible.
I'm kind of butchering the quote, but
that's incredible.
But it's a cool quote in that, like, we have these giant lists of things that we want to do because we want it, and it's kind of like what you're saying with Inside Out, Connor. In the end, like, the customers, do they really care about all of those things? You know, and
No.
do we need to force feed them all of those things in a single piece of creative? And then, oh yeah, by the way, it also needs to go viral. Like, weirdly enough, I think you and I were working together when we did this, but I ended up spending a lot of time trying to manufacture viral videos, and it's impossible.
Virality.
Yeah, like we were measuring a K factor, like a viral coefficient on these ads, and see, like, fuck. I mean, it was like, and we tried it like 5 or 6 times to manufacture a video. We never got a viral video. We got close, but we didn't actually manufacture a viral video. What really mattered, if we pulled away all the other stuff, is that what they meant was that we just wanted reach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like, okay, fine, let's just pay for it. We'll make a great piece of creative and we'll pay to get it out there. Like, there's so much energy that went into hoping something would go viral, which at the end of the campaign was really just about reach. Like, I think it's sometimes not necessarily important that you want something to go viral, or important that you need to stuff in 5 different buy-in messages from different departments. And
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that are there that if we just think about what the customer really needs and what they need to know, and what you want them to remember, it's probably much less than all the things we need to put into our list of requirements.
That's great. And even like asking it needs to go viral, asking the question, what do you mean by that? Because that's going to lead you to the reach answer. You know,
totally.
Lots of people to see it. Okay, well, we could pay for that.
Yeah,
that's exactly it, actually. And it's so interesting because when you think of all the, well, not ads necessarily, but things that go viral, they're probably the most underproduced videos or, you know, creative that happens. It's just very timely. It's very in the moment. It's very, you know, it resonates with a large population, and that's all it requires. Virality comes down to timing more than anything. But again, if as an organization you're really trying to drive that, just go pay for reach. That's okay. That's just like any other campaign.
Yeah. All right, we've got a different segment here to chat about.
We do have one. We do. What are we going to call it? Both. We could just call it this or that, but that's boring. We're marketers.
We're not creatives.
Oh, we're not creative. That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
At least not copywriters, I don't think.
No, I'm definitely not a copywriter. So what we're going to do now, we have 3 questions in a this or that style format where we're going to rebuttal. Hopefully we get some contrarian views here. And I'm looking at the two of you. I don't want it's both. Oh, I can do this and I can do that. No. I need you guys to pick a side. Okay. That's what I'm asking.
Fair enough.
I'm asking you to pick a side. So the first one, this has become kind of somewhat top of mind. And I think, Connor, you talked about this a bit earlier as we were kind of prepping for this segment. The whole notion of to test or not to test.
Yes.
And I think it's kind of created a lot of controversy. One of you mentioned a quote. Mark, was that you?
No, I think it was Connor.
Was it Connor?
Yeah. So from around the debate, and Byron Sharp on LinkedIn said, I used to be a fan of pre-testing until I looked at the evidence. If it were a pharmaceutical, it would have been withdrawn from the market.
Oh boy.
Yeah. He doesn't agree.
All right. Well, how about we do start with you? And what is your take on that?
Yeah, like you want me to take a side and
pick a side.
He's gonna pick the both side.
The both side.
The both side. So like I've read, do you know what? I've been reading a lot about both sides of it, and look, unsurprisingly, maybe not unsurprisingly, the people who are for the pre-testing tend to have pre-testing platforms. So they're definitely for it. But then, like, you've got Ritson and Peter Field who've really come in writing Marketing Week saying, pre-testing, you're an idiot if you don't do pre-testing. like an absolute idiot. Now, the argument against that is that's fine if you're a big brand and you have big budgets and you can afford to pre-test. But if you don't, what do you do? And then I guess also kind of tied to that is you can pre-test. You have to understand what you are pre-testing. So if you can't afford to do, the example Ritson showed on Marketing Week was Carlsberg's animatic, which looks really close to the actual ad they ended up making. If you can't afford to do that, so you're money to do the pre-testing, create an amazing animatic, what are you pre-testing? And then, you're in a situation of going, well, like you're doubting everything because you can't pre-test. So I think it's very easy for someone to come out and say, you're an idiot if you don't pre-test, and this pre-testing is the only way to go about things. But not everybody is in that situation. So what do you do?
That's true.
If you're smaller brands, smaller budgets, to de-risk? And that's where you actually use things like the WARC Creative Effectiveness Ladder, all those things that are available to people to actually to do things and learn from maybe others that have done pre-testing. And look, others have said what happens is, and I've heard this from people, is you chase the score. So if it's a 5-star or a 10-point, whatever the rating is,
whatever it is,
you're just chasing to beat the previous pre-testing score. So are you getting great creative by doing that, or are you just pre-testing well? And then when things go wild, sometimes they don't work because consumers don't always do what we want them to do. So it's...
So are you for or against?
Well, what do you think based on what I've said?
I feel like you're leaning against.
I'm leaning against because I think the vast majority of people probably can't do it. And then this, I think, is a dangerous
fair point
narrative to say you're an idiot if you don't. I think if you're big and you can afford it, you probably are an idiot if you don't. But I just don't think there's enough at that scale.
Mark?
Okay. I'm gonna go with the 4 because Connor was definitely against. Connor's definitely against.
System 1, forgive me.
This is really here's where I think it's valuable. We were just talking about that Newton's Cradle thing and getting ideas smashed. So I think it's for pre-testing is valuable for the purpose of an approval process and delivering a concept that is going to resonate against a strategy. I don't think it's for the actual final creative.
Okay.
So I don't know that it's a bit nuanced maybe, but I don't know that the pre-testing is that important to test the final piece of creative. Like, I think how you get the creative is how you get the creative, and there could be giant leaps of logic to go from your concept to the actual creative final result or the final product. I wouldn't pre-test that. I would pre-test, though, the ability that the message is on point, that it's delivering against the objective that you have, that
concept.
That there's clarity and connection between the strategy, the business outcomes you're looking for, and the creative concept. But to me, that's where there's value in it. I agree with you, Connor, that I think there's a lot of these pre-testing platforms that exist for a lot of the big companies. You can do that, and you should probably do that and that kind of thing. But where I think there could be danger on the back end for smaller businesses is if you run multiple pieces of creative and let the systems optimization be your judge. They could be judging against just their objective, which is extracting more revenue, which is not necessarily the same thing as delivering the message and leaving the imprint and the business objective that you have in mind. So there's a danger there of pre-testing on a smaller business side. I mean, pre-testing could be all kinds of things. It could also be like give a message to your sales team and let them talk about it, right? It doesn't have to be super complicated. It can be, just trying language out in front of a customer, trying a pitch, trying a offer, trying whatever the things are in a one-on-one real life lab kind of environment.
I'm forward again. Back.
You're not. You said against. Quit it, Connor. Jesus, guy. So I will break the tie, and I will say just quickly, I'm also for the notion of pre-testing. I think where it becomes dangerous is like you relying on that more than you should. I think it's a great litmus test. It's a great directional where you're trying to get buy-in internally. Like you said, Mark, sometimes internal stakeholders where you're presenting to, and saying, here's how this concept also pre-tested. It just gets people aligned, likely a lot quicker than anything. I feel like where the narrative's gone wrong, it's it being a predictor of success. And that's not the case. And I think that's where, again, Connor, from your POV, I completely agree in saying that that's where it can fall short. So again, if we just understand what it's meant to do and it's not a predictor of success, I think that's why I'm still for it and why we win and you lose. No, I'm just kidding.
I've turned Ritson, John Evans, who else did I? Peter Field against me. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
That's exactly what you want, isn't it?
Yeah. You want an army of haters out there.
Yeah. So Orlando Wood probably could go in like anyone else. Yeah. Fergus O'Carroll is on my side, so the Irish, the Fighting Irish.
Let us know how cons go then now, right?
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna want to talk to you because you just...
there's the testing guy.
The number of your yacht invites just declined. And rescind that invitation.
I'm checking my inbox here. Yeah.
Right. Next question. I felt that went well. Okay. Next question. And we're going to kick off with you, Mark, this time. Does creative inform media? Or does media inform creative?
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked me this, Pete. Let me start by saying I'd like to thank the Academy for the moment that I have here. So I would say, okay, I am picking a side, and I'm going to pick a side that I was adamant that this was the right answer a bunch of years ago. I would say media has to inform creative. And my argument at the time, I've since changed my tune, but the argument at the time, both. The argument, both. My argument though was that how can you create something if you don't know the box you're putting it in? Because there's so many new boxes that exist out there. How are you gonna develop a piece of creative if you don't know the canvas that you're on? Like you can't create you can't create like this may be an extreme example, the Eiffel Tower in all of its glory if you're given a 5x9 piece of paper to do it on. You know what I mean? Like it to me, it just didn't make sense that creative would inform the media. I thought at the time that media had to inform the creative.
Connor,
you just created an origami little Eiffel Tower because that's the creativity, with your piece of paper. So I think
constraint of the paper actually fuels creativity. Anyways,
correct.
Go, Connor.
Yeah, and I was only having this discussion today where I was shown or asked for an opinion on a media plan, and my response was like, what's the creative? Because there was two choices to make, one very tactical piece of the media plan, and I was like, well, until I've seen at least directionally where the creative is going, what's the idea? Are you showing a product shot? Are you showing just a headline? So I had no context around the creative. So making a decision on those media executions or the tactical buying of the media, I was like, you can't do that well. So I think at least knowing the direction of the creative and then figuring out there's that point where actually media and creative have to come together, and I'm working on something else at the minute where that is happening hand in hand. They're kind of now, right, we now need to talk to each other, because in an early iteration, there was a media plan that was made and the creative that was being made for the creative, they weren't talking to each other. So there was let's say video, and there was print on the media plan. There was no print being created for the creative. So I think there's the right point of bringing the two together, but you have to have, I think, for me, the basis of the creative direction that where you're going. Like even just that call it platform or the idea that you have a sense of that, and then everyone kind of go off and get creative on media and creative. So I just disagree with you, Mark.
Oh, you would. You're that guy.
I'm so angry. Dude, it's a strongly held view as well, which I'll never change, because that's how this works.
V, maybe we should call this tiebreaker, because you have to be the tiebreaker. Who's right and who's wrong?
And the funny thing is, like, my role in the organization I'm working for right now is on the media side. So my quick response is going to be like, of course, media informs creative. Obviously, is what I get paid to say. But in actuality, just listening to you both, I think obviously you bring up really compelling points on both sides. But I think there is something that where creativity can be fueled by restrictions. And I feel like media, Mark, you talked about the canvas. I think it is important that is almost at the beginning, because I think then creatively you can come up with the right areas that you need to kind of operate in. So I'm still I see both sides, and it's very easy to say both, or they need to come together. I still think I'm leaning a little bit more on the media being the
You too.
Oh my God. This is like the Canadians versus two Canadians and one Irishman go into a bar. What happens? The Canadians beat up the Irish guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I still feel like there is, if you're doing it the right way, where you're having, say, and think about it like functionally, you're going into a brief. So you brief your agencies, your creative agencies, and your media partners, right? So they squirrel away and they start thinking about this. You come back to an R1 session where it's like, okay, directionally, creatively, this is where we want to go. From a media perspective, here's where we want to go. I think that's that point of where they come together. Now you start refining towards something. But I think, like, if you don't know also where you're going to put this live and create this, I think that's where it becomes dangerous, because retroactively, it's hard then when we're trying to say fit for purpose creative, it's hard to reverse engineer that if you're already gone away and you built it one way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, the recent project I was talking about, like, we started with kind of almost like a manifesto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just words, like what?
Yeah.
Like I was like, inspire us with the words that, we can then paint the pictures ourselves.
Yeah. And I would swing over to Connor's side, actually, because what happened was actually Paris Olympics are coming up, which fitting for this, because when I switched my opinion was when I was working on what was the Olympics in 2016? Was that Rio? I think it was Rio.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, that was oh yeah.
So I
talked about the Irish ticket scandal after another time.
So that was the Olympic campaign that I switched my opinion on this about, because we had a creative app, which was probably pre-tested, and that was super helpful, because having the creative first, then looking at the creative concept as a pairing between the agencies and the media plans and whoever else was involved. And then looking at the channel choices that we had to execute on this, help bring the creative to life in different ways than we would have done had we just said, these are the channels we're running. Here's the media spend per channel. Here's the tool.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I feel like Connor's right. I hate to go against you, V. I hate to do it.
I feel we're not doing this segment right.
I know.
It's all, we need everything. Okay. Last one. Differentiation versus distinctiveness. Connor, go. More hate coming here. You're gonna piss somebody off.
Mary and Kantar, or I'm gonna upset Jenny Romani. Like,
Exactly.
who am I gonna upset?
Well, pick one. This is like Pritzy's choice. You have to pick one.
Yeah, I'm probably more scared of Edinburgh class, just generally as an entity. Differentiation, I think, is harder. It's hard. I think differentiation harder unless they're meaningful differentiations that people actually care about. So I think it is harder. Distinctiveness, not that it's easy. It takes longer, but like you can do it. And I was presenting to nonprofits last week, and I just showed them examples of a brand that's doing or starting on a distinctiveness journey at the moment by just picking out simple things that already exist. So I think I've probably been more on the distinctiveness side of the fence for a while. So I'm just for V, just so he doesn't get annoyed at me not picking a side, I'm going to go distinctiveness, but it's both.
Sorry, everybody.
Sorry, Mary.
Mark?
Like, so I have to pick differentiation is what you're saying?
No, I could be the differentiation.
Okay, I'm going to go with Connor on this one, because...
Siding with the Irishman again.
Yeah. So I was rewatching Ritson's top 10 marketing bullshit list the other day. Number 1 was Rosser Reeves in the USP. And the reason that was there is because of how widely adopted that idea was and how much damage it's caused. Because the idea of something being totally unique is really rare and fleeting, even if it is achievable. So I think we've had this conversation before, V, but Tesla, when it first came out, really rare, unique, never advertised, the only electric vehicle on the market, kind of Toyota Pyrrhus was like kind of the hybrid one that came before it. But, did a great job becoming the only electric vehicle. Fast forward a few years, they're now advertising because everyone else is catching up. All these other brands, all these other models are in the marketplace. There's now government laws that are in place to make it so that combustible engines are no longer a thing. Everybody's moving this way. So Tesla's no longer differentiated in terms of its vehicle type. It's distinctive, though, in terms of its design and its systems and its logo and all that kind of stuff. Just the same as BMW is distinctive, just the same as name the brand, Toyota, Lexus, whatever. They're all distinctive, but they all have 4 wheels and an engine and get you from A to B, right? So to me, differentiate isn't a requirement, isn't necessary to be competitive. I think distinctiveness is mandatory, though. Like, you can't get away without it. And so I would side with Connor on this.
Okay. Well, the Annenberg Bass Institute left out our podcast, so I am being very spiteful right now. I am going to say differentiation, 100%, full stop, no argument to be had.
Not even a reason why.
Nope.
No, not even get into that.
Just drawing a line in sand.
Yeah.
In all fairness, I wrote a piece on the combining of 2 frameworks, and it was like promise to the customer and the differentiation. I just feel like the framework in of itself is very good and kind of giving you this notion of like, you're building from your difference forward. You're identifying what will make your difference somewhat meaningful, which I think aligns to that notion of like the promise to the customer. You're aligning your campaign activations again around that meaningful difference. Like, it's just it's a way of looking at marketing and creative execution through a lens of, technically, I still think like differentiation is somewhat distinctive. It is something distinct about it, but it's 2 sides of the same coin sometimes. But I just feel like the framework itself really lends itself to really kind of prioritize and look at what you're doing, especially when you apply the promise of the customer to it as well. And that's probably the reason why I would pick differentiation.
Yeah, I think to me it's the idea of, I agree with you and both of you guys, but different implies unique, and it's not necessarily unique. It's relative to what people perceive.
Yeah. Look, here's the most important thing. Honestly, I think from all of these thises or that's is, and you're going to like this, V, but like it's context. It's context. Like, to you, your context, brand, and what the market you're in, the competitive set. And like, honestly, people do read it, but people need to read the stuff and then make the right decision for where they're at. Because if there was a silver bullet,
well, we'd all have it.
We'd all, exactly. So anyway, I would argue,
just quickly, I think whichever you choose, I think the reality is they both work. They are able to compartmentalize some of your thoughts into a very structured format that kind of gets you to an end result or an end outcome that you're likely looking for. So regardless, I think it's just picking the one that works for you better, your organization and all that. But okay.
That was fun.
Well done, gentlemen.
Great. Anything you guys want from Cannes when I'm there? Anything I can pick up for you?
I asked for a couple tickets, so that's all I need.
Yeah. An invite to the yacht party. I'll come out for that.
Look, I'll see what I can do, but
enjoy yourself, man. I will. We'll be living vicariously through you.
Can you get me one of those T-shirts that says like, I had a friend that went to Cannes and all they got me was this lousy T-shirt.
Yeah, and I'll get it in like a really terrible font.
Yeah,
Just, you know,
like
yes,
probably
please.
too small, a size too small would be great.
Yeah, and with the huge logo on it. You know, logo bigger. So,
That'd be
good
awesome.
stuff.
Anyway, have a fun trip, Connor. That'd be great.
Yeah, thanks a million, guys. Good to see you.
Good seeing
Great
you
seeing
too.
you, man.
That was fun.